Hello, dear viewers. You're on the Alien Kin channel. Instead of a bouquet, her husband shoved garbage bags with her belongings into Polina's arms right outside the maternity hospital. Mom decided the baby was too noisy. We changed the locks. Go to your mother with your baggage. They were already drinking to an empty apartment, but the end of this celebration turned out to be a complete surprise for everyone. Enjoy watching. The wind outside the maternity hospital on Innovator Street was not just cold, it was vicious, piercing to the very spine, as if nature itself had decided to test how much more Polina could endure. October this year had been dreadful. The leaden sky hung over Moscow, threatening either snow or icy rain. Polina stood on the porch, clutching the swaddled bundle with her son. Levka, thank goodness, was asleep, his nose buried in the terry cloth lining, and didn't see his father, who was fidgeting by the open trunk of a used Qashqai. Vitaly didn't approach immediately. He behaved as if they were strangers, incidentally meeting in an ocean parking lot. No flowers, no balloons, not even the silly "I'm picking up my son" sticker that Polina had asked him not to buy a month ago, but had secretly hoped for. Instead, Vitaly was unloading black garbage bags onto the wet asphalt. One, then another, then a third. Polina took a step forward. Her stitches from the C-section throbbed. Every movement sent a dull pulse through her lower abdomen, but adrenaline was already beginning to boil in her blood, pushing out the pain. "Vitaly, what is this?" Her voice cracked, sounding hoarse like a crow's. Her husband finally slammed the trunk shut. He didn't meet her eyes. His gaze darted somewhere around her sneakers, then flickered to the discharge sign, then to the car's wheel. He was wearing his favorite puffer jacket, a gift from his mother. Bright blue, ridiculous, making him look like an overinflated balloon. "Polina, there's this situation," he began, rubbing his nose. It was a gesture she knew by heart. This was how he lied when he was staying late at work to drink beer with friends. "So we've discussed it, who we are," she interrupted. Levka stirred in the bundle, sensing his mother's tension. "Well, it's me and my mom, Tamara Lvovna." Vitaly exhaled, inhaled deeply of the damp air, and finally blurted out, looking somewhere over her shoulder. "Mom decided that with a newborn, it's too noisy. We've changed the locks, and you should go to your mother with your baggage." Polina just stared at him for several seconds. Her mind was as empty and ringing as a deserted hangar. "With baggage?" she whispered, repeating the word. "He's your son, Vitalik." "Well, we'll see about that," he grumbled, backing towards the driver's door. "I showed Mom the photo, and she said, 'He doesn't look like me.' Anyway, your things are here. Not all of them, of course, just what fit. You can pick up the rest later. The apartment is ours now. Mom said we need personal space to recover our nervous systems. And you, well, you're strong, you'll manage. You have your mom in Podolsk. So head there." He jumped behind the wheel as if fleeing a pursuit. The engine roared, and within 10 seconds the dirty Qashqai merged into the stream of traffic, leaving Polina alone on the sidewalk with a newborn in her arms and 3 garbage bags at her feet. A nurse stepping out for a smoke walked by. She witnessed the entire scene. Her painted eyes widened, her cigarette froze halfway to her lips. "Girl," she offered, "should I call you a taxi or the police?" Polina looked at the bags. One of them had tipped over. Her favorite cashmere coat, now ruthlessly soiled, poked out of a tear. "No, thank you," Polina said. Her voice became as firm as the steel she had traded for 5 years, working as a procurement manager for building materials. "I'll manage." At that moment, she didn't cry. She remembered that her phone was in her down jacket pocket, and she had money in her account. Not the joint funds Vitaly had access to, but her personal savings, her safety net, which her mother-in-law didn't know about. She opened the Yandex.taxi app and ordered a Comfort Plus with a child seat. Lenka's apartment, her school friend's place, greeted them with the scent of coffee and cat food. Lenka, a disheveled artist and freelancer who had never held anything heavier than a tablet, was now hauling those very garbage bags with the enthusiasm of a mover. "What a scumbag," she muttered, shoving a bag into the hallway. "Just a total piece of work. Polinka, are you alive?" Polina sat in the kitchen, feeding Lev. Her hands weren't trembling. The tremor was inside, somewhere in her stomach, twisting her insides into a tight knot. "I'm more than alive, Len," she said, looking out the window at the gray apartment blocks. "I'm furious. They think I'll go to Podolsk." "And you're not going?" Lenka poured boiling water into mugs. "No, I'm going home. To Podolsk. Home, Len. To Akademika Yangel Street. Building 12, apartment 48. Lenka froze with the kettle. "But he said they changed the locks, and that gargoyle is there." "Exactly, and that's why." Polina carefully placed her sleeping son into the bassinet that Lenka had brought down from the mezzanine. "They think the apartment is theirs too, that Vitaly is the owner, isn't he? You bought it during your marriage. You'll divide it during the divorce, right?" Polina gave a wry, unpleasant smile. "Exactly. We bought it during our marriage. So why should I suddenly leave for Podolsk if it's my apartment just as much as his? And what will you do?" Lenka looked at her friend with a mixture of horror and admiration. "I'll wait." Polina took a sip of hot tea, not tasting it. "Let them relax. Let them start celebrating. Tamara Lvovna loves lingonberry tincture. Around midnight, they'll be ready. And Levka will stay with you for a couple of hours. Can you manage?" "I can," Lenka nodded. "But you're not going there alone. I'll call Valerka. He'll come over." Valerka was Lenka's brother, 6'3", a silent and morose IT specialist who looked like a bouncer from the 90s. "No," Polina shook her head. "No Valerka. This has to be done by the book, so not a single soul can find fault. I just need information." She picked up her phone and dialed. "German Petrovich. Hello. It's Polina, your neighbor from 48. Yes, I gave birth, thank you. No, I'm not home. German Petrovich, I have a request for you. Are you home now? Excellent. Could you possibly listen, yes, to what's happening next door? The story of the apartment takeover didn't start yesterday. Tamara Lvovna, a corpulent woman with a voice capable of drowning out a jackhammer, entered their lives smoothly, like mold. First, she came from Tula to visit her little son once a month, then every 2 weeks. She brought jars of something Vitaly hated but dutifully ate, and her authoritative opinions. When Polina became pregnant, Tamara Lvovna intensified her presence. "You're having a hard time, my dear," she cooed, rearranging things in Polina's closet to her liking. "I'll help." This help consisted of her mother-in-law sitting in the kitchen, watching soap operas at full volume and commenting on her daughter-in-law's every move. "Why are you pouring so much oil? It's bad for Vitaly to eat fatty foods." "Why did you buy these curtains? They collect dust. The baby will have allergies." "You work too much at the computer. The baby will be born nervous." Vitaly, this 30-year-old man who turned into a jelly pudding in his mother's presence, merely shrugged. "Polly, just bear with it. Mom means well. She's lived her life." The last straw was the renovation of the nursery. Polina had chosen calm Scandinavian tones. She went on a 2-day business trip in her 7th month. Upon her return, she discovered the walls had been repainted a toxic lime green because ultrasound can be wrong and I just feel it's a girl. And her desk had been moved to the balcony. "There's more light there," Tamara Lvovna declared, blocking the passageway. "And my sofa will go here. I have to sleep somewhere when I'm helping with the grandson." Back then, Polina remained silent, swallowing her words for the sake of peace in the family, for Vitalik's peace of mind, who looked at her with pleading puppy dog eyes. "Idiot," she thought now, looking at her reflection in the dark window of Lenka's kitchen. "What an idiot I was." Vitaly had apparently complained to his mother for a long time that his wife was overbearing, demanding, and took on too much, and his mother had devised a brilliant plan: get rid of the interloper while she was weak and vulnerable. Dump her and the baby, assuming the proud Polina would go to her mother in Podolsk, settle into maternity leave there, and they would live it up in their capital city 2-room apartment. Alimony. Vitaly officially earned pennies, the rest in cash. The apartment. Lawsuits drag on for years. German Petrovich is typing. Polina looked at the screen. Music blared. Agutin, or something similar. The clinking of glasses could be heard. Someone was shouting about freedom for parrots. "Parrots?" Lenka asked. "It's a quote from a cartoon. Vitalik always joked like that when I left." Polina stood up. The pain in her stitches hadn't disappeared, but now it felt like a taut spring, pushing her forward. "That's it. It's time. I'm calling a taxi." Lenka grabbed her phone. "And don't argue, I'm going with you. Aunt Valya, the neighbor, will watch Levka. She's a wonderful woman, raised 3 kids." In the taxi, Polina made several calls. The first was to a 24/7 lock-opening service. She chose the most expensive and official company, where the operator politely inquired about proof of ownership. "I have the documents and my registration," Polina said clearly. "There are unauthorized individuals holding my property in the apartment." The second call was to 112. "Good evening. I want to report obstruction of entry into my dwelling and a threat to the life of a child. My husband and his mother, being intoxicated, have barricaded themselves in the apartment, changed the locks. I am on the street with a newborn. Yes, I am the owner. Yes, I am waiting for an officer." She knew the police were reluctant to respond to domestic disputes, but the keywords newborn and intoxication should work. Besides, she had another ace up her sleeve. The courtyard of their building was packed with cars. Polina got out of the taxi and inhaled the familiar smell of dampness and heated concrete. The windows of their third-floor apartment were illuminated with festive lights. Music, indeed, emanated from within. A branded Blockmaster van was already parked by the entrance. A stocky man in overalls emerged. "You, Polina Sergeyevna?" She handed him her passport with her registration and an extract from the Unified State Register of Real Estate. The technician, shown his flashlight, nodded. "Situation clear. Owner, your husband is also an owner. Joint, but he changed the lock cylinder and won't let you in. There's drinking going on inside. Got it. I won't break anything without the police." The police arrived about 15 minutes later. A UAZ vehicle with a blue stripe smoothly rolled into the courtyard. 2 patrol officers reluctantly emerged, and fortunately, the precinct lieutenant Sinitsyn was with them. Polina knew him. 6 months ago, she had been lobbying for a boom barrier and had spoken with him on the phone about signatures. "Oh, Polina Sergeyevna," he recognized her, squinting. "Congratulations on the new addition to your family. What kind of war is this?" "Viktor Andreevich, my husband and his mother have put me and the baby out on the street. Literally. My belongings in garbage bags. New locks." Sinitsyn frowned. "Where is the child?" "Safe with friends, but I need to go home. My medication, baby food, warm clothes are there." "Understood. Let's go sort this out." The procession moved towards the entrance. Polina, Lenka with her phone ready, the locksmith with his tool case, and 3 police officers. The elevator hummed, taking them to the 3rd floor. Polina's heart pounded in time with the mechanism. Thump, thump, thump. The floor smelled of fried chicken and marinades. The door of apartment 48 was new, heavy, a dark floral silk. Sinitsyn rang the bell. The music stopped. Silence. "Police, open up!" the precinct officer said loudly, knocking on the metal with his knuckles. A rustling sound came from behind the door, then a gruff female voice. "We didn't call anyone." "Senior Lieutenant Sinitsyn, open the door for document verification. A complaint has been filed." "What complaint?" Tamara Lvovna's voice shrieked. "This is private property. Leave or I'll complain to the prosecutor's office." "Vitaly, open up!" Polina shouted. "Oh, it's you, the parasite." Her mother-in-law's voice now sounded triumphant. "Vitalik is asleep. Don't try to force your way in. Leave," I said. "The apartment is occupied." Sinitsyn looked at Polina. "The citizen refuses to open. You have grounds to believe a crime is being committed inside. Viktor Andreevich." Polina moved closer. "This lock was installed illegally this afternoon. My property is in the apartment, and they might damage it. And most importantly, Vitalik was driving an hour ago, behaving erratically. I'm afraid he might start a fire or turn on the gas. Are they drunk? Do you smell gas?" the locksmith asked, winking. Polina hesitated for a second. Lying about gas was risky, but I smell something burning, she said firmly. It was the truth. The downstairs neighbors were always burning something on the stove, and a faint odor wafted up through the ventilation. "Break it down," Sinitsyn waved his hand. "At my responsibility. The owner is here. Documents are in order." The technician nodded, put on protective goggles. The angle grinder roared to life. The sound was horrifying, grinding as if it were sawing through nerves. A shower of sparks sprayed onto the concrete floor. Panic erupted behind the door. "What are you doing, bandits? They're killing us!" Tamara Lvovna screamed. "Mom, it's the cops!" Vitaly's drunken voice was heard. The technician worked professionally. 5 minutes later, which felt like an eternity, the lock gave way. The door creaked open inward. In the middle of the living room stood a drop-leaf table that Polina had wanted to throw out a year ago. On it was a spread of bottles: vodka, liqueur, cheap champagne, plates of aspic, sliced sausage, pickles, all laid out on newspapers. They hadn't even bothered with a tablecloth. Tamara Lvovna sat at the head of the table in a leopard print robe, holding a half-eaten pirojok. Vitaly, in a t-shirt and underwear, he was apparently too hot for pants, was trying to pull on his trousers, hopping on one leg. Barsik the cat sat on the wardrobe, his eyes the size of saucers. "Good evening," Polina said, stepping over the threshold. The silence was so thick you could hear a fly buzzing over the aspic. "You have no right!" Tamara Lvovna shrieked, jumping up. Her robe parted, revealing an ample nightgown. "Vitalik, tell them!" Vitaly finally managed to get his pants on, but forgot to zip them up. He looked pathetic, tousled, red-faced, with darting eyes. "Polina, why did you do this?" he mumbled. "We wanted to resolve this as a family. Why the police?" "Family resolution involves garbage bags outside the maternity hospital," Polina clarified in an icy tone. Sinitsyn walked into the room, surveyed the scene. "Citizens, present your documents. On what grounds are you occupying this dwelling and preventing the lawful owner from accessing it?" "I am his mother," Tamara Lvovna bellowed. I am registered here, meaning I live here. My son is the owner." "Your son is a co-owner," Polina corrected. "And you, Tamara Lvovna, are nobody here. A guest whom I, as the owner, request to leave the premises immediately." "What?" Her mother-in-law turned crimson. "I poured my health into this apartment to raise my son, and you little thing, came to take it all." "Citizen," Sinitsyn interrupted sternly, "the owner demands you leave. Do you have registration at this address?" "No, she doesn't," Polina said quickly. "She's registered in the Tula region, the town of Szczecino." "Then I ask you to leave. It's late, 11 o'clock. You are violating the noise ordinance and the rights of the residents." Vitaly flinched. "She's not going anywhere. This is my mother." "Polinka, you wouldn't dare. If you kick her out, I'll divorce you." Polina looked at her husband intently, studying him. For the first time in years, she saw him without the filter of affection, without excuses. He was simply tired, or perhaps he had a delicate disposition. Before her stood a weak, petty man, a traitor who had thrown his child out into the cold for his mother's approval. "Vitaly, I don't think you understand," she said quietly. "I'm not against a divorce. I'm even for it. But there's one nuance." She walked to the table, picked up a bottle, and pushed it aside with disgust. "The mortgage, Vitaly, the payment is on the 15th. I'm not paying for an apartment where your mother lives. I'm filing for property division and claiming half of the payments from you for the last 3 years. And while the court processes this, I, as the owner, will rent out my share." "To whom?" Vitaly turned pale. "Well?" Polina nodded towards the locksmith, who was packing his tools with interest. "They have a crew. The guys from the dormitory need a place to live. 5 people will live in this room." The technician chuckled, playing along. "Nah, what the heck, we're quiet, just come home dirty from work and our socks stink, but otherwise we're fine." Tamara Lvovna's face flushed. "You're bluffing," she shrieked. "You won't do it. There's a child here." "The child is with me and here." Polina gestured around the room. "Here, it's a dive. Viktor Andreevich, please document the unsanitary conditions and the consumption of alcohol. This will be useful for the court for determining the child's place of residence so that the father only has supervised visits." Vitaly collapsed onto a chair. He understood. He understood everything. Polina wasn't having hysterics, wasn't smashing dishes. She was hitting them with facts and money, things they and his mother lacked. "Pack your things, Tamara Lvovna," Polina said, weary. "You have 10 minutes. Otherwise, I'll file a theft report. My gold earrings are missing. I saw them on you last week." Her mother-in-law clutched her heart, feigning distress. "Of course. You'll be the death of me." "Should I call an ambulance?" Sinitsyn asked solicitously. "We can call a psychiatric team." This worked better than cold water. Tamara Lvovna, silent, glaring hatefully at her daughter-in-law, went into the hallway. She started stuffing her belongings into a bag. Vitaly sat with his head in his hands. "Polin, where will she go at this hour?" he whispered. "Trains to Tula have already stopped." "To a hostel, Vitalik. There's a great hostel. 500 rubles for a bunk. You suggested I go to your mom in Podolsk. Well, your mom can travel." 15 minutes later, the apartment was empty. Tamara Lvovna left, cursing, vowing to cast a spell and write a denunciation to the president. Vitaly left with her, carrying the bags. He tried to say something at the threshold to look Polina in the eye, but she simply closed the battered, sawed-through door in front of him. Polina was left alone. The apartment smelled of stale alcohol and someone else's perfume. Lenka had already left to take Lev, whom the neighbor had rocked to sleep, to the car. The locksmith, having received his payment and a generous tip, left, temporarily attaching the lock so the door would at least close somewhat. Polina walked to the window. Below, by the entrance, stood two figures with duffel bags. They were arguing. You could see Tamara Lvovna gesturing wildly, scolding her son, while he hunched over guiltily. Polina opened the window to air out the stench. Cold air rushed into the room, clearing the space. She took a bottle from the table, poured it into the sink, swept the crumbs into a garbage bag, that very black one. She felt no joy, only a dull, heavy fatigue and a strange, ringing calm. Half an hour later, Lenka arrived with a snoring Lev. "You're a monster, Polinka," her friend whispered, looking around at the mess. "I could never do that." "You could," Polina replied, taking her son into her arms. He was warm, smelled of milk and life. "When you have this kind of baggage in your arms, you turn into a tank." She looked at the sawed-out door. Tomorrow she would have to install a new one, another 100,000, and the court case would be long and the divorce messy. But today she was home, in her home. Polina walked to the wall where a calendar hung with a picture of a happy family, her and Vitaly at the sea. She took it down, crumpled it, and threw it into the trash can, right on top of the half-eaten aspic. "Welcome home, Lev," she said to her son. The baby smudged his lips in his sleep, as if agreeing. Outside, the first snow began to fall, covering the dirty asphalt like a clean white sheet, just as her new life was now beginning, without ballast. So, dear listeners, sometimes you have to discard an old calendar without regret to start with a clean slate. What do you think? Was Polina justified in throwing her relatives out in the middle of the night? Write your opinions in the comments. I'm very interested to read them. Peace and coziness to your homes.